Okay, so the topic of this video is primarily on how Inventor locates files when it comes to opening up an assembly. Some of you have discovered that if you have files that are scattered around your hard drive in different folders, Inventor is going to have a hard time trying to find it. Yeah, if we take a look on the splash screen right now, the topic here is primarily gauged on this thing right here, the default. So the default project is the factory setting project that Inventor has. Now, first of all, what is a project? Project is not the same thing that we equate a project, which is the entire assembly and everything like that. A project, or in this case, a project file, in Inventor is, for the lack of a better term, it's the roadmap that Inventor uses to find everything. So all it's doing is that a very small file is telling Inventor to look in particular or specific places. So because of that, Inventor will look for them and efficiently find and open up the file. Now, if we take a look at an example, so right now I've got this set to default. So I'm going to go and I'm going to open, and I'm just going to go into my desktop. I'm going to go to the ManCAD projects right there, and right here I've got not only parts, but I have my assembly. The assembly is a mechanical pencil, so I'm going to use that one, and I'm just going to go open. Okay, and it's going to try opening it, and then it's going to give us this. Okay, so this is the problem that everybody faces when they first start playing around with assemblies in Inventor. They get this huge resolved links dialog box. This is where it's telling you, well, you're missing stuff. You're missing a lot of parts. I don't know what to do. I don't know where they are. You got to tell me where it is because I can't find them. Well, if it is a small hard drive or if it's small locations, then it's a little bit more of an inconvenience, but it's still a requirement. When you have larger systems where there's multiple folders where things can be stored simply because they're being used by other assemblies, then this becomes a really, really annoying and painful problem. The resolved links does not go away unless you tell Inventor exactly where to look. So that's what the scope of this video is going to be all about. So we have most of the parts in the ManCAD project, which is shown right up there. Okay, so the ManCAD folder has those projects. However, there are other parts to this assembly which are located elsewhere within the my documents or my desktop. So because of that, when I try clicking, it's going to tell me, well, the location is not specified, and it's simply because there's no active project file there. So what we're going to do is we are going to rectify this by just creating that project file so Inventor knows exactly where to look. And there's two places that it's going to look. It's going to look primarily in the ManCAD projects, and it's also going to look in this one, which is called Commons. Commons is a folder that may contain parts that are used in other different assemblies. So rather than making multiple folders for the same parts, just put everything in one location and then have the assembly look for it in there specifically. So unless there's a requirements for separate individual parts of the same type, a commons file is usually used, and it's almost like a library. That library allows you then to pick and choose the pieces that you want, and then you can put them into any assembly you want. Okay, so let's cancel here. Okay, so we're not going to be able to open up that assembly very quickly simply because of the fact that there's that resolve link. So I'm going to resolve the resolve links. So to do that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go upstairs here, I'm going to click on this button right here, which is called Projects, and accept. And then what this does is that it gives me this dialog box. This dialog box is the editing portion of this area right here. We can also manipulate here, but I usually go into the dialog box itself. So the first step in creating a project file is make sure that there's no dangling links, as they're called, meaning you're looking at areas where you're not supposed to or don't need to. So the first thing I usually do is I usually go to my default, and there's two defaults in this case. I've got this one, which is a prepared, and this one, which is the factory settings. I usually use the factory settings because that has no links or no ties. So it's a great place to start. It's your standard. And now we're going to create our project. So I'm going to just simply go New, which is at the bottom left-hand corner, and we're going to create our project. When we pop into here, now you may end up having different, but there should be a minimum of 2 choices. Here I have 5 choices, but you may end up only having 2 choices: the new single user and the new vault project. We do not have a vault or an archiving system signed, so it's the new users that we're going to be using. So that's the one that we're going to take, and that's usually the default. So I'm going to make sure that that's set. I'm going to click Next, and there's only a few little things that you need to do in order to create a project file. The first thing you need to do is give it a name. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this Pencil Project. Okay, you do not need to give it the word project. I'm just adding it just to show that you can manipulate the name itself. Okay, so Pencil Project. Next, I want to put it where I do all my work. I want to put it in the folder that has my assembly. So in order to do that, I'm just going to go over here to the Browse button, click, and then I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to find it. Well, I know that it's in my ManCAD projects. Click there, click OK, and now it's assigned it. So it's assigned it right there. Okay? Nothing else to do, just click Next. If there are specific libraries that we want to use, we can also incorporate that, but in this case, this is a brand new file or a brand new project file, so I'm just going to hit Finish, and now it creates the Pencil Project. So there's the Pencil Project. Now, I have the Pencil Project. Let's take a look on the bottom portion here. On the bottom portion, it tells me what this consists of. It's a single user. Here is the workbench or the workspace location, which is what I've indicated. So that's probably the most important line right there. Any included files? Well, there's the included file simply means setting files. We don't need anything at that point. Appearances, libraries, that's all standard and all default. Material library, same thing. Workspace. Workspace is where we set our workspace, which is our Pencil Project. Okay. What we do want, however, is we want to link this project so it will also read from the Commons projects. To do that, it's the one right below Workspace, which is called Workgroup Search Path. So as soon as I highlight that, if I take a look at this bar on the right-hand side, the plus sign becomes active. So what I want to do is just, in this case, I can add a new path. I'm going to click on Add Path, and then what it does is it gives me a path. I usually rename, I don't like just simply putting down workgroup because workgroup is ambiguous. Give it something that makes sense. So I'm going to call this Common Parts. Okay, so Common Parts, that's the name that I give it. And then the only other thing I need to do is tell it where the common parts are. So I'm just going to go, again, in the Browse button, click. Okay, there's Common Parts. Click. Okay, now it's indicated that. All right, so now I have my workspace. I have my common parts. If I want to add libraries afterwards, I can do this all at a later date if need be. But in this case, the only thing I need to do is hit Save. Okay, so now when I hit Save, I've created my project. So I'm going to go done. Okay, so let's scroll down. So project at this point is active. Now, what makes this so useful? When this is active, I'm just going to click open, and it's going to go directly to the ManCAD projects. Okay, and there's the assembly. Now, if you take a look at this blue bar on the left-hand side, you also have common, which has common parts. So what exactly does this do? Well, if I click on pencil and then I hit open, what it's going to do is it's going to open up the pencil. Okay, so it opens it up because it knows now exactly where to look, and depending on how large your assembly is, it is going to make it go that fast. So now, as long as you put stuff in that particular folder, um, or if I say, for example, if I save something or create a new part, then what will end up happening is that when I save it, it will go directly into the ManCAD folder, because the ManCAD folder is my workspace. It's my workbench. I can also, because I have the link to Commons, let's say that I create a part and that becomes a part that I can use in other assemblies. Well, I want to put it someplace that I can then acquire it afterwards and I don't have to go look for it. So I can switch it to my Commons folder and save it there. Moral of the story is that simple, small little project file will ensure that no matter how big or how small your assemblies are, it will always go and it will always efficiently open up without that resolved link folder always popping up. Okay, so with that said, thank you for listening and have a great day.